Welcome to the Resellers Podcast with Tech and Sports and Daily Refinement. We've helped thousands of people save time and make more money by improving their online stores. Check out patreon.com/the Resellers Podcast for thousands of hours of full-length ad-free podcasts and coaching calls. Join our Facebook group with thousands of sellers making the transition from hobby to business. See you in the show. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Resellers Podcast with Tech and Sports and Daily Refinement. Today, I want to simplify all of eBay to just 3 steps. We've been doing this podcast for over 2 years, talked to thousands of people, seen it all, and just want to share with you guys the best practices. And I just boil it down to 3 things, and I just want to discuss that today. And we have live people in the chat. You guys are welcome to ask questions as we go as well. But the 3 things I want to talk about is, these are the 3 things you want to focus on. Pretty much nothing else matters. And if you just spend all your time on these 3 things, you won't have time to worry about anything else. And we'll go over them in depth. But first thing is where and what to buy. Number 2 is how to list it correctly for maximum traffic. And then number 3, no defects. That means never losing an item, never dropping the ball on customer service, perfect account metrics. That's pretty much it. If you spent your whole day just doing these 3 things, I think that's it. How can you list correctly to get max traffic? And you have to actually list it all. So we'll start with the first one, I guess, which is where and what to buy.
All right. So where and what to buy. There's many different ways how to do this. There's a million ways to be successful in this business. I think that the most successful people choose one. A lot of people want to source in every different direction. And last week, I heard a very interesting quote that I've been thinking a lot about. Was in the $99 call. A lady said that she's an everything person, so she has an everything store. And I think that there's a lot of people that are everything people. And in turn, they develop everything stores. And you can be successful in everything store. Everyone has to find their true definition of success. But the more you can narrow down, the easier all of these steps become. Where and what to source. If you do become a true expert in a certain niche or a certain subset of items, you can figure out where those items are on the high end, where those items are on the low end, and you can reverse engineer the supply chain to get them at the very low of the very low. It's difficult to do that when you're on the lookout for toasters, sombreros, tiddlywinks, shoes, hats, VCRs. Very difficult to source or get any sort of supply when it comes to that. And this morning, Tice was trying to make a decision whether she should go to $2 days or whether she should go to the bins where everything is $1.89 per pound. Mm-hmm. If something is profitable at $1.89, it's still profitable at $2. Mm-hmm. There's not a huge discrepancy there. But once we really figure out what our business model is, you can figure out where the best bang for the buck is. And that was Tice's question. That's the answer that she was seeking. That's the answer that she wanted. So is it better, more bang for the buck, to go to the $2 sale on the racks? Is my return or is my average sale price going to be higher? Or is my return, more items, higher average sale price, better margin, sticking to what I'm doing, $1.89 at the bins? So until you really figure out what you want to sell, nobody can point you in the direction of where to find those items. You could do thrift store, bins, garage sale, flea market, liquidation, bulk buys, tons of different business models. A lot of people want to do all of them, but the ones who kind of pick one, figure out where the best bang for the buck is for them personally, their desired amount of items they want to get in a certain amount of time, the cost of goods, the average sale price, how good they are with the Rolodex, how much of an expert they are. It's very easy to point someone in the proper direction for that.
This is really true, because the secret to where and what to buy is in the word sourcing, and it's getting as close to the source as possible. You get the best stuff for the lowest price. Goodwill, Salvation Army, they get the best stuff for free. They are right at the source of where people donate the items, whether it's an estate that's being cleared out, somebody's moving. Usually people donate because of some type of a reason. If you're right there at the source, you're going to get the premium stuff. So Goodwill, most people know this already, but they run 100 of the top 1,000 stores on eBay. All of the Goodwill stores have their own eBay store. They sell to somebody, they scrape up all the best stuff on top. The closer we can get to that, the better the stuff. So if you're getting it as Goodwill, great stuff. If you're getting it at retail at Goodwill, it's going to have the best stuff. By the end of the week, when it turns into Dollar Day, already some of the stuff has been picked through. There's people in the group who've found the best success right after Dollar Day, because maybe they're waiting to put out all the good stuff after they've cleared out all the old stuff. But the closer you can get to when it was initially donated or thrown away or liquidated, that's going to be the best. And it comes from the word source, which is figuring out where it came from.
So I agree with that some. I disagree with that some, because to really and truly figure out how you need to source, you need to figure out your facilitation of the product. So like you said, Goodwill gets the best stuff for free. They also get the worst stuff for free.
That's right.
But they are able to sift it out, to sort it, and properly display the best items at a price where they still leave, meat on the bone for resellers, which is a large part of their business. And then for people who want secondhand fashion, or, for people who, go in there on a budget. So you can go directly to the source, and a lot of people do that.
Yep.
Oh, I can get stuff for a nickel a piece, but I got to buy 100,000 pounds. But they went straight to the source.
Yeah.
So like, to say the closer you can get to the source, the better. Maybe not, because now you have to facilitate and sift through 97,000 pounds of garbage and dispose of it or do something with it at a nickel per pound. So now you have 3,000 pounds of very good items. By the time you add up nickel per pound, you've spent $85 each. And is it still a great deal? No, it's a horrible deal, because now you have 97,000 pounds of trash and an $85 buy cost on a $15 average sale price item. So the people that can source the best are the people that have the most extensive brand knowledge, because the worst thing that we could do is pass by something that's profitable. And the more times you do that on your thrift route, the more thrift stores you have to hit, the more driving, the more wear and tear, the more time on the road, the less time sitting your butt behind the computer listing items. So I don't go directly to the source. I let the person get all the stuff, let them process it, and I'll cherry pick the best stuff. Thrift store. I'll let the person get all the stuff, cherry pick the best stuff. Storage auction buyer. I'll let the people get all the stuff, process all the stuff, cherry pick all the stuff. Rag house. If you could be one step under someone who has already figured out facilitation and processing, and you have the opportunity to cherry pick, in my opinion, that is the best slot to be in as someone who sources. Not number one, because that's heavy processing. Yep. You need to be number two, the one that can say, I want this, you stay with the garbage, I'm going to go home and make money.
So that happened to me when I went to Goodwill to get to an auction. I was like, okay, how do I do this? And the guy said, you buy a pallet and then you either take it home, or the best people take home only the winners and leave all the stuff here that they don't want to sell. And I want you to be successful so you can come back and keep buying from the auction. So I tried it. I actually talked about this in the morning call. I bought a pallet of shoes for $100 for 100 pairs. So it's easy to say that your cost of goods is $1 a pair, but really there were only 10 pairs that were sellable. So that's sure. $10 a pair.
Absolutely.
And if I had to take that pallet home and sort through that, I would have had the disposal cost and the transportation cost. If you have the luxury of cherry picking at the thrift store and leaving behind 99.99% of the thrift store, because a lot of Goodwill operations go under, even with zero cost of goods, because the operation is so difficult, they can't even do it with free stuff.
A large part of Goodwill's success is a real estate play. They're in all prime locations in every neighborhood. So a large part of their success is the real estate. But this is an interesting exercise, and I used to do this when I thrifted. I used to count how many hangers I scrolled past before I got one that was a winner. And routinely, it was every one piece I would pick per 100 to 200 to 300 items. So figure 1 out of 225 items was acceptable for me to pick, but I had to sift through 224 pieces of items that did not hit my metrics. And everyone can do this at the thrift store. Just count every single hanger. Here's one, count again. And you'll see you're scrolling past hundreds of items that you've said no to before you pick up an acceptable one. But here's where it gets interesting. The more you can expand your knowledge, the more you could build the Rolodex, the more you go through the exercise that we did on January 5th, the more you can study the comps, the more you can commit to memory, good materials, good tags, what makes something special, what are the check boxes that we're looking for certain brands that, I see it, I know this is special and worth money, so this is something that I can pick up. Maybe to a beginner or a novice, maybe they're going through 700 hangers before they find an acceptable item. Where as you gain more experience, you're going through 100 or 225 hangers every single time you find an item. And as you do that, you spend less time at the thrift, less time at the route, and as I said, more time listing items. So a couple of calls ago today, Landon picked up a pair of military pants. Whatever he saw on them spoke out to him that this is something that he needs to pick up because he feels that they're valuable. They ended up being a pair of Ralph Lauren kind of military issue pants. And he had questions about how much that they were worth. In my opinion, those are worth $300. But he knew enough where this style, this brand, this style and this brand together is money, and they should be picked up. And he said he found those at the bins, at the bottom of a bin that has been picked through. So that's somebody who went through 700 items to find their first item, but Landon gained enough education where he only had to pick through 50 items to find his first item. So as you get better, as you figure out, your true understanding for what your business is, and for me right now is $4 into a $25 average sale price. When I was going to the racks, it was $8 into a $30 average sale price that sold within a 90-day time frame. Every single item that fits that metric was a keeper to me. Outside of that, I leave it for the next person. That's not for me. Everything is not for me personally, but there are people where everything is for them, and those people get dragged down. But because becoming an expert, gaining education, all of that takes an immense effort that a lot of people don't want to do. But the more educated you are, the easier the job gets. So every now and then you'll send me a text of something random. I tell you everything about it, soup to nuts, in 3 minutes. If you had to figure that out yourself, it might take you 3 weeks. But like the faster you can gain an education, I've listed 3 weeks worth of items while people are trying to figure out what this item is, and it takes 3 weeks to list one item. Yeah. So it's very important to pay attention to the details, figure out what those check boxes are, take the effort and the initiative to learn your craft. Like I'm begging people to do that.
Yeah.
Learn your craft, become an expert. And that's the secret to listing items as fast as possible is there's zero research time in the listing. If you have zero research time, you know all the keywords, you know all the item specifics, and you know how much it's going to sell for, that listing takes 23 seconds to upload.
That's exactly right. I can't remember who in the group brought this up. They went to Goodwill, and Goodwill had inventory that they were not able to sell. So it was going to Goodwill bins in those big, giant blue rolling carts. And the guy said, can't I just look through those? Because they're going through, I can pay the full retail price. So you don't have to send it to Goodwill bins and get less for it. And the manager said, we're not set up for that. They're only set up for retail. If it doesn't sell, put it on the bins. I think that's a huge lesson because Most people are not set up to buy the things that they're buying.
Right. And that's a question that everybody should ask themselves. Yeah. What am I set up to do? And then when I find an item, ask yourself, am I set up to do this? And if you're not, leave the item and go find something else that's much more easier for you to facilitate and process. A long time ago, I was talking to Monica, and she came across some kind of deal that she thought I would be interested in. And that's exactly what I told her. I said, I'm not set up for that. That would require a totally different photo setup, a totally different storage system. And then maybe I would have to go out and buy boxes to send out those items properly. And I'm not set up to do that. I'm set up for clothing on a flat lay that can hang up on a hanging rack system that can fit in the poly bag. Everything outside of that, easy pass, because I'm not set up to do that.
Yeah, I agree. Thinking about what you said with the processing power is really important, because the more you move up in volume, the more processing is required. Yes. And that's why we go back to 30 at home being the most unbelievable model you can do.
That's an easy model because you only need to know 20 brands to find 30 items.
Yeah.
Educate yourself on 30 brands, 20 or 30 brands that sell through in 90 days. Mm-hmm. There's no processing in that, because you can take the time at the thrift store to examine it for flaws and leave it there if it's too much of a project or it's going to be too diminished in value. You can find something else if you only need to find 30 items a day once you have gained the knowledge on those particular brands. As you grow larger or when you're beginning, of course, it takes more time and you got to, take the time to figure it out. But 30 items a day for someone that, really knows the craft, that is the most beautiful living that you can make on eBay. It's very easy sourcing. It's very easy listing. And it's very easy packaging of sales every single day. Minimal amount of processing in that business. My business now, 250 live, 100 or so items go to the store, hundreds of items go to whatnot. My entire business is just processing. That's it. I have like an assembly line of Krabby Patties coming down. And if I mess up the formula, this whole thing breaks in a matter of hours. Everything has to go to the correct place. Like, could you imagine if I brought stuff that was supposed to go to the store and accidentally brought it to the warehouse for the eBay listers to do? They would have no idea what they're taking pictures of. Take all the pictures, list all the stuff. And then when I look at it at the end of the day, we have 360 items that are not eBayable that I paid a bunch of people to do. And now they're selling Tommy Bahama at the brick and mortar store. And that's not what that store is for. So like one simple mistake like that messes up the entire operation. And that's, hundreds or thousands of dollars of a mistake. And I have news for you. 5 o'clock tonight, I have someone else bringing 1,000 more items. There's no time for mistakes like that.
So I asked Jack, our video game expert and Amazon expert on Fridays, what the most valuable part of reselling was. And he said grading.
Sure.
One of the grades that people don't use enough is don't buy it or immediately dispose of. Because when you're going, it's just at Goodwill, you're grading. It's basically 99% no's. But I was just thinking, when you're first starting and you look through 10,000 hangers, you may not find one item. You have no idea.
And that's great. That's okay. What you do find is you need to go home and research.
Yeah. And you can look up every brand in the first 100, and the next 100 you look through, you'll find some of the same brands.
So for me, I'm very conservative.
Yeah.
And I think since the beginning, when I go into a deal, I always look for reasons why I should not buy this.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times the best buy that you can make is not make the buy.
Yeah.
But I think people that are, of a different mind state where, the cup is always, half full instead of half empty.
Yep.
Everything looks great. Everything looks profitable, even if it's an ounce profitable. Just like, the Instagram post that they found some sort of vacuum, no comps, none active, $60. I'm going to take a gamble. That's someone who's definitely glass half full. I think I can sell this for profit even though there's no sales history, no comps, no actives, $60, I don't even know if it works. I'm still going to buy it, still pick it up. I'm still going to list it. For me, that's several check boxes of do not buy this item. I'm going to pass. And I think that if you can go into deals or go into items on, like, convince me to buy this, otherwise I'm not buying it, I think a lot of people will find themselves in less of a mess. But if you go into items with like rays of sunshine and rainbows and unicorns are dancing behind it, you come home with bicycles.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny because you say that you have all the reasons in the world to say no, but you can instantly recognize if it's a winner.
Absolutely.
Even though you're the most conservative.
Sure. Absolutely.
So does that mean it's just instantly processing? You're looking through the 10 things that you need to look through instantly because you've already seen it so many times?
It's easy because I've said yes to items hundreds of thousands of times. I've practiced doing that hundreds of thousands of times, maybe even 1,000,000 times.
Yeah.
I have a lot of practice in this hits my metric, I need to buy it. I know in 1 second. I also have tens of millions of times saying no. All those hangers I flipped through and left, I've said no millions and millions of times per minute because it didn't hit all the check boxes that I'm looking for. So what are we looking for? Brand that meets your metric, X amount of dollar buy cost, X amount of dollar sell cost. The style most times is going to determine your sell-through rate. You can find an excellent brand on July 1st that's a puffer coat.
Yep.
Maybe for you, it doesn't meet your metric. If your metric is I want to sell through items every 30 days. Maybe for you, you leave that on the shelf. For me, acceptable, I still buy it. Maybe you see the best brand, the best style, but it's too expensive. That's a no. Unfortunately, we have to pass. Maybe we circle back on deal day and it's still available and we make the buy. You have to do those calculations like the matrix screen hundreds of thousands of times when you're out at the thrift. You have to look brand, style, price, brand, style, price, brand, style, price, brand, style, every single time you flip the hangers. And if you're cruising, you're flipping 100 hangers a minute. You have to do all of those calculations hundreds of times a minute. And if you don't know what you're looking for, you're like a first grader doing math. If you put a calculus student who's a PhD on first grade math, he's done. But if you put a first grader on first grade math, they're still doing it.
Yeah.
It's all about the experience, the reps, and getting the knowledge.
Yeah, that's right. So over time, your ratio to find a winner goes down and you can just you don't have to look as long to find your quota. And you actually need that because the reason why I came up with this 1, 2, 3 list is because we only have so many hours in the day. And I think a lot of people listening to this podcast want freedom. So if you want freedom, then you need more productivity. You need to get more done in less time. That's freedom. So we hear a lot about people doing things their way, and we have no problem with you doing your things your way, but just think about how long it's taking you to do it and think if there's a better way. That's all. You think about if there's a better way all the time. It's just not.
Yeah. And, when you say, if you could be very productive and do your work fast, you can find freedom. You're absolutely right. Unfortunately, you do your work fast and you just find something else to do. And there's no freedom in that.
Well, it's just like the curse of people who are productive still find more things to do.
Yeah.
It's really never ending because you can always do more and improve more and add more, serve more, be better.
It's like I have an extra hour. What do you do? It's like, exactly. And then eventually I have an extra 2 hours. What do I do? And it's just it's okay to finish your work and just be done.
Yeah. I think that's another secret that you've done over the years, which a lot of people don't see, is that you're very careful to raise your goal and you can get done and be done early. I think a lot of people may never be done early. So the next one is how to list an item correctly for maximum traffic. I think that people don't understand this. And last night you were going over Cindy's progress. And honestly, we've been doing this group for 2 years and we don't talk about people's progress very often. That's how rare it is.
So last week I went pretty hard on Cindy because Cindy's been around for a while. But just as hard as I go on people, I gave Cindy massive props. The turnaround of Cindy's listings from what we looked at last night was probably the biggest turnaround out of anybody in the entire group. And her titles last night were she's almost there. She's like 90% of the way there. And she did a fantastic job this week by going back and listening to the call on July 27th. And we referenced that call a lot, but like I really hammered that topic last week. And like it's puzzling like how many people have not watched that call. Like there's probably been 50 posts in the group about link me to the call on July 27th, but that call has been there for a year and a half. So like these resources are there, they're available. And, Sarah, she made a post today about like, the best calls for everyone to watch. So hopefully that will help. The zip code call is in there. The title structure call is in there. A lot of the deep dives are in there. So maybe having all of those calls on one playlist will help. But like the information has been like referenced a lot of times and has been there for a year and a half. And, I just wish like we can download all of that information into everybody's brain, but, unfortunately not possible. So like, if you haven't watched the call on July 27th, do like Cindy did. And Cindy went back. She did her homework. She restructured her listings. Her listings look great compared to what they looked like 10 days ago. So, massive props to Cindy. She's come a long way in that subject. So just like everybody, just like all of us, we just have to continue to grow and gain that education. And everything you need to know about eBay is located in the group. You just have to take the initiative and go look for it.
So I think my biggest takeaway from that was somebody asked the question, how come this item didn't follow the rule that was set on July 27th during that call? So this title wasn't the rule, but you didn't have a problem with it.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I don't want to give away the secret sauce, but there are exceptions to the rule, and understanding why that may be really helps. Really, really helps when you understand why there's an exception to the rule.
Sure. And the example that I gave made perfect sense why it's an exception.
Yeah.
So you have to put yourself in the position of the customer searching for that item in order to figure out how that item should be listed and titled.
Yeah.
And on the July 27th call, I show everybody crystal clear why these items did not sell. And I show the same exact item that has sold several times, just structured in a different way. And a different way is one word being in the wrong spot. And there's millions of listings on eBay where one word is in the wrong spot.
But one thing in the wrong spot causes people to die. It causes ridiculous defects everywhere. You have to do things in the right order to avoid catastrophe in a lot of different places. Like any kind of work that's important to the structure of any building or any business, if you wire something the wrong way, it blows up. So it's just people don't understand the gravity of having a poor title and poor pictures and poor item specifics, and it's priced $5 too high, and the return policy is not favorable. They don't understand the consequence of that. It's the difference between your item never selling and selling immediately.
Right. And in addition to that, I think most people, it might be very difficult for them to figure out the things that I talk about on the July 27th call, because I get the same items over and over again.
Yeah.
I show an item that is literally $3, and I show that same item constantly sells for full price.
Yeah.
you can't run those experiments if you don't get the same exact items over and over and over again. And since I do an aged inventory markdown strategy, my oldest items are always items back then that had one word out of place. So it's easy to do an age markdown strategy and say, oh, this shirt should have sold 500 times by now. Why is that?
Yeah.
Let me try something the next time I list this same exact shirt. Try it, sells. Let's do it again. Try it, sells. Try it, sells. Try it, sells. All of these items that I list differently sell. This one that is 10% of the price does not sell because one word is wrong and nobody can find it.
Yep.
That's how I'm able to figure out, and that's how I'm able to run those experiments, because I do the age markdown and I list the same exact items over and over and over again. And when I did that experiment on the call, when I sorted my store, the cheapest items that were $3 all had the same exact one-word error in them.
Yeah. Okay, so this makes sense. I think this analogy should nail it for everyone. There are people in the group who've given us listings. We know exactly what it is, and we can't find it on eBay. So here's the thing. If the coordinates are wrong by 1, the buyer can't find it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really the key. Like if someone gives you directions, but the last direction to the house is wrong, you'll never find it. Sure. So that's why I think if you can just think of it as in, these are the directions to the item.
Right. And we did that last week on one of Cindy's shirts. Typed in the title and eBay said, oops, no items available.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to the Resellers Podcast with Tech and Sports and Daily Refinement. If you'd like to listen to the full episode, please check us out at patreon.com/the Resellers Podcast for all information, all our full-length episodes, over thousands of hours of coaching, and our Facebook mentorship group, which is $35 per month, just about $1 a day to help you get to the next level. We appreciate you guys. See you next time.